So what's going on everyone, my name is MrDalekJD, and with Alpha Omega on the horizon, let's turn that excitement level from a 7 up to a 10 with this video, as we are going to be exploring, explaining and blowing your minds on the storyline and lore behind Alpha Omega. Because there are so many clues spread throughout the zombie storyline, even back in World at War, which is going to help explain that amazing story trailer we got yesterday, and explain the huge stakes we have going into this map. But before we begin, I just want to ask a really quick favor. If you could spend 1 second clicking the thumbs up button, that would be super appreciated, as by the end of the video, I'm very confident I would have blown your mind enough that you felt that like was worthy. If you want to see more content like this from me, then spending a second of your time to click that lets me know, and I super appreciate it. If you're not part of the Noti squad, definitely click that bell and turn on post noties. Without further ado, let's begin. So ironically, over the last few days, we now know that Alpha Omega's location is indeed Nuketown zombies. But why are we going here, and why is Nuketown important? Well, the short story is there is a huge deposit of element 115 which is being mined by a huge drill by a group called Broken Arrow, and what they're using this for is for a very, very bad thing. And what is absolutely mind-blowing is Nuketown and the drill were first mentioned in RIESE in World at War, where Dr. Maxis explains on the radio that he simply doesn't have enough element 115 to continue experiments, but his operatives in America do have a large supply at a Nevada base, as well as himself trying to find a larger conduit to channel the energy, which the Americans have via the Nuketown drill. Take a listen.
Work on the matter transference has, however, come to a standstill. We simply do not have enough element 115 to continue the experiments. The test subjects have survived teleportation, but are currently unresponsive to commands and cannot be controlled. If we are to overcome this obstacle, we need to increase the frequency and size of the experiment. To this end, I suggest we find not only a regular supply of 115, but that we also find a larger conduit to channel the energy. Our operatives in America have informed us that the U.S. has a large supply of the element at the Nevada base. So time is of the essence if we are to stay ahead of them. This cannot be done if you cut the budget, nor can it be done if you insist on pressuring us into action before we are ready. I am of course available for discussion on the matter, but in the meantime, I will continue with the work here and try to win this damned war. Signed, etc., etc., Dr. Maxis.
Now, if you aren't shook by that fact, then I don't know what will. Back then, I think mentioning the Nevada base was more teasing towards Groom Lake and the moon map. But as mentioned several times in Classified, Groom Lake is situated near the drill, which is obviously in Nuketown in Area 51, Nevada. And in Black Ops 1, we learned that Richtofen was doing a lot of things behind Maxis's back. This is more obviously presented to us during Black Ops 1, especially on the moon radios. We hear a heck of a lot about it in Classified as well. Richtofen believed everything that Group 935 stood for died the day Dr. Maxis made a deal with the Reichstag. And even back in World at War, you can tell that Dr. Maxis had always had an issue with the American operatives because they've always been one step ahead. They were doing their own experiments and perfecting their own matter transference device. But in 1961, a man called Cornelius Pennell sought to try and start a brand new government-funded program called Broken Arrow, with the primary intention of preventing another undead outbreak. He proposed an idea to Robert McNamara, how a humongous amount of element 115 was sat right next to their nuclear testing site. Now, if resources were combined, Groom Lake could receive the funding to properly mine the materials, and therefore expand their experimentation on different devices. McNamara wasn't interested, but in Pennell's head, the idea of Project Broken Arrow had to become reality, because over the next 2 years, he began hearing stories about an evil little girl named Samantha that can control the undead. He asked Colonel Sawyer about it, and he told him to pay it no mind, but apparently everyone has been laughing off Dr. Schuster's stories for years about it. But then Schuster had proof. He claimed that Samantha was responsible for several outbreaks over the last 20 years. A bunch of names were mentioned, but one in particular was Shinonuma, the Rising Sun facility. One of Pennell's own soldiers that he sent in to investigate, Peter McCain, never returned. It was at this moment that he had to investigate further. And this investigation lasted several months before he finally realized that Samantha was real, and that she possesses a very real and very dangerous power. And if she was to unleash fury, she could wipe them off the map and the entire world. He saw Samantha as an opportunity, and to combat this, the Pentagon was going to need to significantly increase 115 operation, which means they need greater access to the gold mine at Groom Lake, a huge element 115 deposit that we see being drilled in the Nuketown loading screen. But for him to get to that loading screen, for us to be in that position, he had to obviously pitch Project Broken Arrow again to Robert McNamara, but this time, Purnell has his own personal reasons on wanting it, as well as combating a threat to national security. Upon learning about the attack from Samantha in an abandoned theater in Berlin, Kino de Toten, McNamara finally realizes that he is going to make arrangements for the president and Castro to discuss the Broken Arrow initiative, because if Samantha poses as a greater threat as it seems, they must put aside all differences, as no nation alone can defeat her. An alliance must be formed and must reach across the metaphorical aisle. The meeting was held in the Pentagon, and McNamara finally realized that perhaps Purnell was correct. If they used the Broken Arrow initiative to harness the power of Element 115, they could build a better world and be prepared for the war with this Samantha. And the discussion with McNamara was a resounding success. But he thought, why destroy Samantha when we can take her power and harness it for themselves? The amount of Element 115 buried down in the Nuketown facility, what could they do with it? Well, with this power, they could mold the Earth anew, created in their own image. This is no longer just taking down Samantha, but using her power to create something very, very evil. Celebrates with a toast to Dr. Schuster for gifting him this opportunity. When the excavator is up and running at the test site, he'll be sure to give him access. And what do we see in the Nuketown loading screen? We see the massive drill, which is mining huge deposits of element 115 at the gold mine he was talking about near Groom Lake. And who is that in that hazmat suit watching over? None other than Dr. Schuster, the sole person that Purnell gave access to the drill. Now, there's way more to this loading screen than that we're going to touch on a little bit later in this video, but now we've finally got you up to speed on the creation of Broken Arrow, which are going to be very important in the story when we play this map. What's happened since the creation of the initiative? Well, the Groom Lake program was merged with Broken Arrow, and numerous facilities were established throughout the country in order to combat the undead threat, which includes a facility near Green Run Transit. Experimentation began with Element 115 around 10 years after the initiative began, where the program recovered a fragment of the Element 115 from a Japanese research group, Division 9. 6 years after that, Russman began working at the initiative. Because he was exposed to the element of 115 for such a long time, his memory began to deteriorate, and that's how we see him in Black Ops 2. During his time there in the 1980s, there was live animal experimentation where they used the element 115 recovered from the Japanese to create mutations. These were supposed to be used in order to gain an advantage in the Cold War, which they dubbed bios. But as you can see from the Call of Duty Zombies comic, they are caged up a lot like what we see in Classified with the Nova 6 crawlers. Now, as expected, a few years later, one of the mutated creatures escaped the facility and there was a containment breach. And these monsters massacred all of the employees where Russman was working, but he luckily escaped alive. Now, there's going to be a brief spoiler warning in here to talk about some of the new zombie types we're going to see in Alpha Omega, so if you don't want to hear about that, then just click to the timestamp on the screen. But 3, 2, 1. Okay, if you've seen some of the image leaks surrounding Alpha Omega, one of those involved seeing some of the new zombie types, and one of them looked like a Nova 6 crawler but fused with like a turtle or a rat, and I'm pretty confident that the bios that you see in this comic are going to be exactly what we're going to see in the map, because the images of the new zombie AI have these distinct sharp teeth and they look pretty similar to this comic image. I could be completely wrong, and if so, I'm happy about that, but just putting that out there. Okay, spoiler talk over. Exactly 10 years later, Russman and the rest of the Victor's crew returned to the abandoned facility where the breach occurred, and despite being pursued by a horde of zombies and the bios, they recovered the shard of element 115 and escaped. So how does this all get involved with Nuketown? Well, as a consequence of the declining supply of element 115 available to the initiative, Broken Arrow attempted to excavate more of the element through a drill near the Nuketown facility. As a result of Broken Arrow's excavation, a bomb exploded outside of the facility, which led to an undead outbreak and consequently the events of Nuketown zombies. This is how Black Ops 2's Nuketown Zombies was born. Now, in November 2025, the primary facility was destroyed in a fire through an act of arson to cover up the events that transpired. This led Russman to quit his job there altogether and wander the fragmented Earth that we see in the buried intro. So after that, we know a lot more about Broken Arrow. We know about Russman's involvement in it. We know that they have the drill there in Nuketown to excavate more of the element. We can see this happening in Classified through some of the blueprints along the wall, where we can see blueprints of the Nuketown drill itself, as well as a teleporter pad, and blueprints for the Nuketown bunker itself, which I assume is the entrance they used to gain into the facility there. But what is Purnell's true goals here? If you remember earlier in the video, he wanted to create new worlds and stop Samantha completely. And what hasn't been told to us explicitly through radios, but has been hinted hugely in Classified, is that the only way that they can combat the Samantha threat is to create a brand new MPD. And in this image, you can see it right here clear as day, outlined in a blueprint with a huge picture of said MPD, and these are the items that they need in order to power it, which they must recover from Griffin Station, which includes the golden rod, the weird ball object from Moon, as well as the focusing stone from Shangri-La. In the bottom right there, you can see have Purnell begin construction immediately, use the testing site near the depository at Groom Lake, and that testing site is Nuketown. So in Alpha Omega, the Nuketown Zombies remake, there is a new MPD built solely for the purpose of trapping Samantha and using her ethereal powers for their own malicious intent. No longer do they simply have to just combat the Samantha threat, but become the Samantha threat by having control of their own MPD. Let's look back again at that Nuketown loading screen one more time. Now we can see the drill clear as day, and the person wearing that hazmat suit as well has his name badge as Schuster, but that panel on the far right has been a mystery for years and years, and even with this updated Nuketown loading screen, it's still a little perplexing. You can see the words "no step" written on that image, which assumes that this is the wing of the plane that Schuster is piloting while facing the drill. What we could assume here is that Schuster is piloting this device which controls the drill. That the sole reason that they are drilling this element 115 is not just for their own experimentation, but to power their own MPD. Now, what is hard to distinguish is if the MPD that we see in the story trailer is indeed the MPD that Broken Arrow have created, or if it's an entirely new MPD, because the blueprint shows one circular panel at the front, which the golden rod, the black egg, and the focusing stone are going to be inserted into. But Samantha is inside an MPD with 3 circular panels, which is a completely different area than the MPD on Moon. Now, throughout Zombies, we have seen quite a lot of MPDs. We've seen the one on the Moon, obviously. We have what we can assume to be the same MPD from the Moon teleported into Dreisendrach, which the Keeper comes out of. There's also a Group 935 film playing in Maxis' office in Dreisendrach, which shows the discovery of a brand new MPD on the Moon. Now we're seeing a poster of a brand new MPD, which we can see in Classified, and now Samantha's trapped in an entirely different new MPD. But Purnell and the other associates of Broken Arrow creating their own MPD, trying to grant the power to control the Aether's energy. It sounds like a disastrous event, and from the story trailer, looks like Samantha is not at all happy. In Classified, which is a slightly alternate timeline, she's a lot more chatty and talky than we've ever heard her before, warning Richtofen and our characters about the power of the MPD and the Aether, and how nobody should have this power. And there are moments in this story trailer as well which suggests that Samantha might actually be released from the MPD at some point during this map, as we see her stood on a mound at the Apothecon straight from Revelations and wiping that thing out of existence in the space of a second with her power. But it's going to be hella interesting to see it all go down in Alpha Omega, as we have Broken Arrow with their evil plans to rid Samantha once and for all and gain control of the Aether via their own MPD. We have Nikolai, who is the only Primus member left with a soul, who's going to have to use his soul in order to defeat Dr. Monty. And by the sounds of the trailer, there is going to be a sacrifice made in this map. How exactly, we don't know, but people have started to theorize that he himself might use the MPD, as the MPD uses souls as a power source, and he is the only one that has a soul left from that crew. The ultimate battle is going to go down between Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man as well, with the Apothicans and the Keepers in the Great War, and I can't wait to see how we eventually get to that state. But there we have it, everything laid down on the table in black and white. The Broken Arrow Initiative, Nuketown as the map location, just a sprinkle of the potential ramifications that we are going to deal with in this map story. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it all the way to the end, then I am extremely appreciative. I posted another theory video last night talking about Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man's huge new secret, which was revealed in the story trailer and explained fully in detail. If you missed that video, I have it on your screen right now, and if you want to watch that story trailer again without any commentary and just enjoying it for what it is, you can also find that on your screen. But thank you so much for watching as always. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you for another one very, very soon.